Hey everyone, Ben Coomber Radio, episode number 280. We are closely coming up on the 300 mark. Very exciting. This show's nearly been around for 4 years. Can you believe it? Now, one thing that has made this show incredible is obviously the amazing guests that we get on the show. And this week is no other. And this week's exciting as well because this is another big podcaster. And I can't single him out on his own because there is a team at Mind Pump, which is the show that we've got on today. They're doing incredible things over at Mind Pump. I'd like to think I'm doing some pretty incredible things. So two colossal podcast people join forces today. And Sal, do you know what? I think I'm going to butcher your second name already. I've kind of I've got it swimming around in my head. Sal Di Stefano.
Yeah, it's super close. Di Stefano.
That's not close. You're being too kind, idiot. It's because in my head you've got it broken down into what looks like 3 words. So I'm kind of.
It's 2 words. In Italian, it's Di Stefano.
Okay.
But people just say Di Stefano.
I think it's how Doug's written it on the welcome message on Skype. So we'll blame Doug, and we can't see Doug, so we can easily blame him.
We always blame Doug for everything.
Sal, right, give me a little bit of background. Everyone's got an incredible journey in fitness. You're going to have an incredible journey. Mind Pump's obviously going to have this kind of like secondary journey off the back of your journey. So throw me the Sal journey. Let me hear it. Let us hear it.
So I started in fitness at a pretty young age, professionally at the age of 18. I started working out when I was 14. Motivated very strongly by some deep insecurities with myself. I was a very skinny kid. I wasn't very athletic, and my dad had a weight set in the backyard. Started lifting weights to try to better myself, and just became very passionate about it. At the age of 18, I became a personal trainer at 24 Hour Fitness, which is one of the larger, if not the largest fitness chain in the world. At the time, they were growing, and I walked into the local 24 Hour Fitness, introduced myself to the manager, said I wanted to be a personal trainer, got hired, and within a few months, I was managing the fitness department. And then maybe 6 months or so after that, I was managing the entire gym, and just absolutely fell in love with the environment of the gym, working with people, the motivation involved, leading teams. Fitness, one of the things I love most about fitness is it's a very growth-oriented industry. You're constantly learning, constantly trying to grow, constantly self-examining, or at least if you approach it, I guess the best way to approach it is through growth, and fitness just lends itself well to it. Did that for a little while. Left, opened up my own wellness facility, owned that for about 12 years. It was a small studio where we did personal training, massage therapy, acupuncture, gut testing, hormone testing, the whole 9. And then about 2.5 years ago, started Mind Pump with my co-hosts, Adam Schaefer, Justin Andrews, and Doug, who at the time was my client. And it's been absolutely awesome. It's been just a lot of growth the entire time, a lot of change, ruffled a few feathers along the way, and plan on continuing to do so. But it's been awesome, man. The fitness industry is at the same time amazing, and it's also horrible at the same time. So many things wrong with it, but also so many things that are right with it. It's an interesting dichotomy.
It is. We talk about this a lot on the show, and I think when you're passionate about, your topic, you are trying to be a thought leader in some respect. You see the massive pros and cons on a huge level. When you're dealing with, potentially thousands of people listening to your media and what you put out there, you see it, and that's when it becomes painful because you see the gravity of what the positive stuff can do, but also what the negative stuff can do. But before we get onto that, how did Mind Pump actually come about then? Were you getting angry one night in a bar, you were scribbling around on some beer mats, and you were like, yeah, let's do a podcast? Like, where did the mission come from?
That's exactly what happened. No, I'm just kidding. So I had developed a fitness program called MAPS, which was a different approach to muscle building, different than the conventional approach, the traditional bodybuilding, body part split type training. And I had developed that program and started marketing it online with Doug, who at the time was a client of mine. So we partnered up. We had put together this sales video and introduction video to the whole thing. And I had known about Adam Schaefer during this period. Adam Schaefer had also worked for the same company that I had worked for, which was 24 Hour Fitness. And I had heard about him because he was another top performer, but we had never really actually sat down and met. And we kind of met through social media, through mutual friends. And I told him about this program called MAPS. And he said, send me over your material. I sent it over to him. He was really impressed. And he said, we need to meet. We ended up scheduling a phone call. And literally within the first 10 minutes of the phone call, we both decided, man, we need to do a podcast. And it was probably a week after that, we all sat down, me, Adam, Justin, and Doug. Actually, no, Doug wasn't there at the first meeting, but me, Adam, and Justin and another friend of ours met in Adam's living room. And we did not shut up for about 4 hours. It was just right out the gates. It was fire, great chemistry. We all were on the same page, throwing ideas out, and real excited about the prospect of doing a podcast. Bear in mind, none of us had any experience with any of this stuff. We had no idea what we were doing. We just thought we need to do this. Luckily, Doug had some equipment, and we recorded our first episodes shortly thereafter, and hooked. We were all hooked right away. We all had our jobs. We all kept our jobs for about a year and did the podcasting on the side. Didn't even monetize it for a year. But it was just one of those things. You ever have an experience where you do something for the first time and you just know, like, this is what I have to do. This is what I'm meant to do. And it was like that for all of us right away. And 2.5 years later now, we're sitting at almost 600 episodes, and we've been doing this full time now for, I think, about a year.
Wow. How many shows are you doing a week then?
5. We do 5 episodes a week. Yeah. Yeah, we have a superpower. Our superpower is that we can talk a lot. Like, we can just sit down and go. So I don't think we need quite as much prep as a lot of podcasters do, which we use to our advantage. So we can just pump out content at a ridiculous speed. But really, if you came in and recorded with us, you'd love it, Ben. We literally, when we have guests come in here, everybody trips out. We'll have them sit down. We'll get their headphones on. We'll turn the mics on, and we'll just start talking. And about 20 minutes into it, they'll look at us like, are we recording a podcast? We're like, absolutely. This is how we do it.
Nice. Well, I'm jealous. But we need to get into some big knowledge bombs that are going to make people think. And if anything is making people think that I like on my show. There's a lot of things that you're passionate about. I want to start with the things that you see are wrong with the fitness industry, because that was something that came off your chest right at the bat. And if I can, probe into something that you're passionate about, then amazing. Now, let me just throw a hand grenade in there. What right now are you saying to yourself, I want to try and change that in the fitness industry? And I believe I can affect that, because that is an area of fitness that really grinds my beard.
Geez, there's so many things. The first thing that comes to mind is, and part of it's consumer driven as well, is the mentality that motivation is behind the success of fitness and health and wellness. In other words, I need to be very motivated in order to make this something that I do on a regular, consistent basis. This is actually a false premise. Motivation by nature, we experience in spurts. We'll get periods of time where we're motivated, and then there's periods of time when we're not motivated. This is normal, natural human nature. And fitness tends to push that paradigm that we're going to motivate you, we're going to pump you up, it's going to be super exciting and super fun all the time. And the problem with that is when you rely on that, what happens when that motivation is gone? Because inevitably, at some point, you lose that fire, that excited motivation that we were sold so hard, that we think is behind fitness. And what typically happens is we stop exercising, we stop worrying about our nutrition, and so it becomes this kind of on the wagon, off the wagon paradigm that causes so many people to start and stop. I managed health clubs for years, and the vast majority of people that sign up for a membership probably use it, I don't know, a couple months out of the year. Most people will go on a diet and go off a diet. And so they're not understanding that it's not about things being motivated. It's simply about living. And part of the problem with that is that we are also heavily motivated by the aesthetic. And the fitness industry capitalizes on this by making you feel like you are not a good person, or you're an ideal human being if you don't have a six-pack, or if you don't look a particular way. And again, if that becomes the driving factor behind your motivation behind exercise, you're going to find yourself starting and stopping more often than not. And so I like to try to help people understand the paradigm of, it is a way of life, but more than that, it's just living. Fitness doesn't have to be this ridiculous, structured, super intense endeavor that we do every single day. It's just about loving yourself and loving your body. The how you exercise and how you eat is very different when you do it because you really care for yourself versus when you do it because you hate yourself. If I look in the mirror and I say, God, I hate my body, I hate this fat belly, I hate the way I look, that's going to motivate me, of course, for a short period of time, and it's going to drive me with my workouts and my nutrition, but they're going to look very different. I'm going to punish myself in the gym. I'm going to punish myself harder if I eat something I'm not supposed to. I'm going to be angry with myself if I don't eat the way I think I'm supposed to. Or I'm going to eat super strict because, that's the way I think I need to eat to look a particular way. Versus caring for my body. If I really care about myself, there may be days where I wake up and I say, gosh, I'm really tired. My body feels a little beat up. I think what I need, because I'm caring for myself, is maybe some motivation, some meditation, or maybe some rest, or maybe some yoga, versus the high intensity spin class or the CrossFit workout, or the which can be fine, but also many times is used as punishment. So really, it's and also understanding that the side effect of really caring about yourself, ironically, is the aesthetics that we tend to want. Looking fit by accident, realizing that health is probably the most attractive look you'll ever have, versus chasing the aesthetic, which tends to lead us down a path of poor health, physical and mental. So it's really just changing the paradigm of how we talk to people about fitness, how we talk to people about nutrition, how we talk to them about our insecurities and the way we look at ourselves. I think that will go a lot further.
Well, the fitness industry for a long time has focused on simple, visual, aesthetic motivation from a mindset perspective. So for the last 20 years, our motivation has been, and we can go right back to like the Arnold days. We looked at Arnold and we were like, wow, he's got the body, I want to get fit, that's awesome. You could maybe look at Jane Fonda all those years ago in kind of like the female side of things. And now I think we're starting to realize that, like you said, people aren't just motivated by an image, by a picture, a desire. Some people are. Some people can, and they have that desire. And I did that. I had the internal fortitude to change my life around. But the big problem, and you've identified it, and we've talked about it on the show before, is getting to a place where you can genuinely love yourself, and actually that feeling of appreciating and loving yourself is okay. You're allowed to do it.
Yes, and you really want to separate your body image from your self-image. I think when people start to identify with their body in fitness, you get distorted images or distorted ideas of what is considered aesthetic. So let me explain what I mean by that. We all recognize, as humans, we naturally will recognize what aesthetics looks like. it's supposed to represent health. So when you look at somebody and you think, man, they look attractive or they look really good, the reason why we evolved to even recognize that is because it's a very visual, instant signal that tells us that a person is healthy. Clear skin, relatively muscular, relatively low body fat, good movement, good energy, good posture. That tells us the person is healthy. And so that's what we recognize as aesthetics, and that's why it's pleasing. But if I just focus on aesthetics, if that becomes the ultimate goal, and I don't think about anything else, that becomes distorted. What ends up happening now is aesthetics for a man may mean steroided fueled muscles, extremely low body fat, where it's unhealthy. For a female, it may mean proportions that are hardly ever seen in nature. It may look like plastic surgery. It may look like, just things that aren't that we wouldn't normally and naturally consider aesthetic, but now we do because we've distorted that image in our minds. And if you're a person that strongly identifies with that and strongly identifies with your body, as in, this is who I am, it's my body, it will drive you to that. And that's a bad place to be in the short term, but definitely in the long term. I mean, think about it this way. At some point, your body is not going to look the way you want it to if you continue to identify. At some point, we all get old. None of us are going to stay youthful forever. At some point, you may encounter an issue where you maybe don't look the same. You're going to constantly be chasing that, and it's going to make you do things that aren't necessarily good for you. Or you'll give up completely and abandon it altogether and do nothing. And this is what we see. I'll tell you what, some of the worst body image issues and worst issues that I've ever seen with food and exercise, and I mean unhealthy, very unhealthy, both from a mental and physical space, are people in the fitness industry. I've worked with thousands of clients, regular everyday people, and I've also worked with fitness professionals, bodybuilders, physique competitors, bikini competitors. And if I were to take them as a whole and, see who has worse issues with food and exercise, believe it or not, more of the fitness professionals will have some of those bad issues with, horrible relationships with food, not being able to go out and enjoy themselves, having to take food with them everywhere, stressing out over missing a workout, going on vacation and having to exercise every single day and not really being able to enjoy the moment, which is all part of wellness. All of that is part of wellness that we tend to forget. So, true health and true wellness, the side effect of it is the aesthetics that we're chasing. So if you chase wellness and health, you get a great deal of both. If you chase aesthetics, you'll get some aesthetics in the short term, but you won't get health in the short term and the long term. So it's kind of ironic that chasing wellness gives you more aesthetics than just chasing aesthetics will.
In your experience, so kind of trying to wrap up more in this motivation landscape and the kind of appreciating yourself and wanting to move forward with yourself, what do you see as blocking factors in a lot of people that you coach as to why they can't take that step to really appreciate themselves, why they can't get over that hurdle to say, I'm going to do this for me? Because in my experience, there's also a lot of environmental things. Both, we've got this spiritual and emotional side of it, but there is physical, environmental things like the relationship that you have, the place that you work in, the gym that you go to. All these different things contribute to our ability to be successful.
You're absolutely correct. I tell people all the time, sometimes the reason why maybe you're miserable is because you're surrounded by assholes. And that's a very true statement. But it requires, and all of this, by the way, requires a certain level of mindfulness. So when I first start coaching somebody, I explain to them that the signals that their body and mind will send them are they can be quite accurate. The problem is we've learned to ignore them. Okay, we've learned to ignore these signals. So I'll give you a good example. When you take a healthy individual and you first, and I mean, they're healthy, so no health issues, and you talk to them about fasting for the first time. So I'll tell them, okay, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to have you skip breakfast and lunch, and then you're going to eat dinner. Now, bear in mind, humans evolved fasting regularly. We know this now. There's lots of science to support this. So this is not a big deal. And we can survive a long time without food and have no adverse effects. I mean, a long time. They've done studies where people will fast for 14 days, and they'll have absolutely no adverse effects. So I'm telling somebody to fast for, 20 hours or 16 hours. Now, these same people, they'll, knowing that they're missing breakfast or missing lunch, all of a sudden have this kind of visceral reaction. Oh my God, I'm starving. I'm hungry. I'm irritable. And what's really happening is I think they've expected or anticipated those meals. They've learned to ignore the true signals of their body. They're not really feeling true hunger. It's almost like going to the movies and craving popcorn. It's this conditioned signal that we think that we're receiving. So we've learned to ignore true signals. Another one is when you're sitting down to eat a meal and you're satisfied, but you sit back and you think to yourself, wow, I'm not full yet. I think I can eat some more food. Or maybe your mom or will tell you this. I remember as a kid, my mom would tell me, do you still have any room in your stomach? Do you want some more food? And so we were conditioned to think, and I still have to fight with this with myself, to where, well, I eat enough to where I feel stuffed. And that's when I stop. Like, oh, okay, I feel uncomfortable. I think I'm done now. So we've learned to ignore all of these signals. We also ignore the signals to move, the signals to sleep. We've got artificial light on all the time. And so that kind of tricks our body into thinking it needs to stay awake. So really what I do a lot with my coaching initially is I help people start to understand the signals that their body is sending them. And then through that process, as they start to connect the dots, it becomes so much easier to eat healthy. It becomes so much easier to become active and to become, more mindful. Meditation is another one. When I get my type A, clients, these are the go type of people, right? The business people who work, 14 hours a day and just every minute is scheduled and planned. And I'll tell them, listen, I want you to do 10 minutes a day. I want you to sit down and I want you to try to meditate or do some mindfulness walking. I'll teach them a technique that's it's kind of like meditation. And they'll tell me like, God, I don't like sitting down and, I'll do what you're telling me, Sal, but I don't want to sit down and waste time. It's very difficult for me to sit there and do nothing for 10 minutes. And so I try to explain to them that they're trading 10 minutes of sitting and doing nothing, and they'll get back about 30 minutes in productivity because of how much better their mind ends up working or how much better they end up or more productive they are with their life. And I try to sell them that idea because I know that'll motivate them to even try it. And I know within a few weeks, they end up finding, wow, I remember things better. I work more productively. I'm faster with the tasks that I have at hand. So it's really the first few months is getting people to the point where they can start to really read and understand those signals and end up enjoying the process. It's not hard to stay motivated or, like I said, quote unquote, stay motivated or stay consistent with exercise and eating right when you enjoy it, when the process is what you enjoy, when it's not about getting to a goal, it's about enjoying the process. That's really key in my experience.
I think this is where constant, obviously practical and evolving goal setting is really important. Like you and me probably wake up every day and say, why would I not be motivated today to improve my health or keep on top of my health? There's no reason for me to have any type of sabotaging behaviors. But to keep me motivated and interested in my health, I want to keep moving towards maybe a physical goal. And this is where you do try your hand at different stuff. You're like you, let's say 10 years ago, you might have been really interested in building muscle, but now you're probably slightly less interested. So you might go in the gym 2-3 times a week to enjoy that process and maintain that muscle. But now you might be like, well, I enjoy playing squash or badminton or volleyball or whatever. And there's a goal associated to that so that you can have some interest in actually continuing to pursue the physical side of your fitness, which then latches itself onto the mindset and the nutritional side of fitness.
Yeah, and goal setting is important, but it's also like any powerful tool. it can backfire on you. So I'll give you an example. I would train clients who would, let's say, get ready for a marathon. So they're going to do their first marathon, and they're very, very motivated to exercise and train so they can complete their first marathon. After the marathon is over, they always have this huge dip in motivation, this huge loss of desire to exercise and move because they've done their goal. Now what? Athletes will encounter this as well when they train for a particular event or a tournament, and then they find afterwards, like, okay, now what? Like, what do I do now? And so you can definitely keep setting goals, but really the ultimate goal, if you will, should be to enjoy the process. So I'll give you another example. When they do studies on the world's blue zones, and blue zones are areas of the world where people live a long time, disproportionately more than everywhere else in the world, where you find people who live to 100 or older. And when they go to find the secrets to longevity of these people, they don't see that these people set goals for fitness. What they see is that they enjoy what they do daily, which just so happens to involve things that are active. So, like the island of Sardinia, that's an island off the coast of Italy. It's one of the world's blue zones. Men live on average 15 or more years longer than the average in other modern nations. And they'll find that what they do every morning is, the ones that live near the hills will wake up every day, walk for an hour and a half up in the hills, tend to their goats or pick some berries, some blueberries or some whatever, come back down, have some lunch and, relax a little bit, go back up, do some more work. And they're doing all this activity, but it's something that they enjoy doing. Or the fisherman who, at 80 years old is going on his little boat, going out in the middle of the ocean and fishing and coming back and just being active every day, but not because they're doing it for a particular goal. It's just something that they enjoy doing. I've achieved that. Most people who've been in fitness for 10 years or more have done that, where, Ben, you wake up every day. I'm sure you look forward to your workout, not necessarily because you're training for something, but you just enjoy the workout. You enjoy doing what you're doing. And when you do that, it's becomes easy. It's not a problem. It's not hard to stay consistent when you just enjoy doing what you're doing on a daily basis.
Totally. And that's why this stuff has got to be made fun, and you've got to have a direct outcome. Like, I have an outcome, like if I produced with a really healthy meal and a not so great meal that might be really processed, I will want to choose the healthy meal because I know the outcome. I know that I'll probably feel tired if I don't choose it. I won't actually have, that kind of satiation factor from that meal. So we have to tie these things to it. But coming back to the goal setting thing, surely for me, this is where education comes in, because like if I've got a client that's going to go and do a marathon, I'm going to say to them, like, by the way, at the end of this, you're probably going to want a week or two off. And it's going to be okay that you're not going to want to go for a run. And if you just want to walk and do nothing and be a slob, that's okay, because your body's literally going to be crying out for that. It's like I've just worked really hard for like the last month, finishing a big project, and I took a couple of days off, but I knew that it was going to happen. I knew I was going to get to the end of that work block and be like a bit tired, ready for a break. And I think if we allow that to happen and not feel bad that we need to keep being on this bandwagon, then it's kind of okay. We know how to manage it.
Absolutely. I like to tell clients ahead of time what to expect, because it does, like you said, letting the person know you're probably going to feel tired for about a week after your event or whatever. I think that helps quite a bit in getting that person through those pitfalls. But it's also really understanding the benefits of rest and the benefits of low intensity exercise, as well as the benefits of high intensity exercise, or even the benefits of eating that processed meal, like you just said. Now, you've done a great job because you've connected the dots. You've connected the dots so well that you probably crave healthy meals more than quote unquote unhealthy meals, because you know how you're going to feel. To you now, you've got that positive association. So it just you enjoy eating healthy meals more than the bad meals. It doesn't require lots of hardcore motivation or dedication from your part. It's you that's something you want to eat. However, on the flip side, there are some potential health benefits to every once in a while eating a quote unquote unhealthy processed meal. If I'm at somebody, a birthday, but let's say it's my birthday, which happens once a year, and I've got friends around me, and I haven't seen my friends in a little while, and we all want to connect, and somebody made me a homemade cake, and we've got some alcohol there, and we're enjoying ourselves. At that moment, the health benefits that I'm going to get from connecting with these people, from enjoying this homemade cake, from getting, drinking a little bit, enjoying some of this alcohol with friends, is worth the, potential negatives that I'm going to have from physical side, from, the sugar in the cake or the alcohol. And so, I think it's important that we understand that, because we can also get stuck in the, I'm only going to eat healthy all the time. That's orthorexia, right? That's an unhealthy relationship with food as well. And like I said, I've met people in that space who are so regimented with their food, but are so unhealthy in other aspects. Again, if we look at studies of people who live a long time throughout the world, the number one thing they all have in common, believe it or not, is not what they eat, because they all have kind of wide variety of foods. The number one thing they have in common is these social connections. And, sometimes it's healthy to eat the shitty food because you're connecting with the people around you. And that's okay to do that. And believe me, understanding that leads to longevity and consistency with health. Being so regimented on one side tends to lead to on the wagon and then totally off the wagon for a long time.
As someone that's busy, fitness professional, has a lot of running around, but has an appreciation of food, both mental and physical, do you think you still get enough time with people and family and enjoying that food experience? Because like you said, you look at people, cultures like Sardinia, where they're probably sitting down with their family every night. Do you think you do that? Because I, if I was honest, I think I don't do it enough.
I tell you what, I did not do that enough for a long period of time. I worked very, very long hours. It's very easy for me to get absorbed in my work. I have 2 children, and I was married for about 15 years, and probably married 10 years too long, and in that particular relationship. And part of that was it was a mutual thing, but part of it was my fault in the sense that I didn't spend a lot of that time, that important time, with my family. Coming out of my divorce, and I never let a difficult situation go to waste. I always try to grow and learn from it. And one of the things that I learned from that was to value that time with family and friends, because it's very important. And so now I'd say I can say now pretty confidently that I do that. Almost every night I have dinner with my kids, with some family. I make sure to schedule time to spend with important people in my life. Ironically, I'm just as productive as I was before, if not more productive, which is pretty funny considering I spend less time trying to be as productive. I end up getting more productive time because I'm more fulfilled, more content, more I don't know. It's interesting. It's one of those things that you get again, you trade 15 minutes and you end up getting an hour back in productivity.
Yeah, I can't agree with you anymore. I've just had that highlighted, like I just told you about this month-long work block that I've just been through. And I've just pretty much had 3 days off. And today I feel great. I feel more focused than I've ever felt. I'm getting more work done. I'm not letting things get in the way because I don't want them to get in the way. Whereas before I might be wanting a distraction because like I'm struggling to just get the work done. I want to feel that the work in front of me is easier, so I choose an easier job, and again a distraction. I think so much of us do that, and I've now re-implemented an old pattern where I take a half day midweek, and then that half day midweek when you work 2 long days, totally refreshes you and makes sure you keep that momentum. And I definitely lost that, and I think in the modern world we need that. We need those boundaries, because I think what people don't appreciate is even something like social media. While social media is there and quite often we enjoy the process of social media, we're constantly asking our brains to be on, work and process information, and that takes energy.
It not only does it's definitely distracting. Not only does it take energy, but it takes us away from our most creative, productive process, which is being present and being mindful. Especially in our field as podcasters, a lot of what I talk about requires a certain level of thinking and a creative process that won't happen if I'm just constantly distracted all the time. I know when I take a little bit of time to almost do nothing, that I come back and I turn the microphones on and I have better episodes. I can think more clearly. I'm much more productive. Think about it this way. This is good for the listeners. If you are probably far more productive in one focused, motivated, creative hour than you are in 5 distracted, unmotivated, tired hours. So what you should do is think about how can I grow those focused, motivated, mindful hours, and how can I shrink those distracted, kind of wasteful hours? And one of the best ways to do that is to take time off and let yourself, get those things flowing again. And so again, you're trading, 10 minutes for 15 minutes. I mean, if you keep trading those 10 minutes, you'll keep getting 15 minutes back. Before you know it, you'll be twice as productive as you were before.
What you talked about having food with your family. I'm intrigued. What does your lifestyle look like in terms of, the fitness regime you're currently in, the food? What does fitness look like for you in terms of kind of really keeping momentum in your life?
A big paradigm shattering moment for me with exercise and fitness was realizing that when I go to the gym, my goal is to practice movements and to get better at them, versus I'm going to the gym to achieve maximum levels of fatigue and breakdown. So let me give you an example that might make a little bit more sense. I live here in California. It's sunny most of the time, and you see a lot of people who run outside. So if I go outside for a walk, I'll probably encounter at least 2 or 3 runners on any given day. People just like to run out here. Like I said, the weather's nice. Out of 100 runners, I will probably see 1 person who runs well. Everybody else has it's terrible biomechanics. It looks like they're in pain. They're creating poor recruitment patterns. They're doing a lot of damage to their bodies. There's a whole industry built around this, right? Shoes that are designed to correct all these imbalances, and knee braces and all this huge industry that feeds into this. Now, humans evolved to be able to walk and run for long periods of time. In fact, if you look at all of the things that humans do well physically, there's not much, but one of them is we can out-trek pretty much any animal. So you ask yourself, well, why the hell do people run so poorly? Well, the main reason is, first off, we don't run since we're children. We stop, so we start up as an adults, and so we don't have that skill. And then when we do run, the goal isn't, I need to learn how to run well. The goal is, I'm going to run until I'm tired. I'm going to run until I'm exhausted. I'm going to run to fatigue, because that's the goal. The goal is all about fatigue. And when you do that, your body reverts to recruitment patterns that it knows best. And those recruitment patterns are the ones you develop through being sedentary. And those are the ones you end up strengthening. So you develop these bad patterns. It would be like me learning how to type on a typewriter with my 2 index fingers and doing that for 10 years. And then you tell me to type as fast as I can. That's the way I'm going to type. Not knowing that if I stopped and slowed down and learned how to type with all of my fingers, that within a few months I would surpass my best speed with my 2 index fingers. And so all exercise can be viewed this way. When I go to the gym, if I'm trying to build muscle, The old paradigm is I need to go in there and hammer my chest or hammer my shoulders or hammer my legs and get out and get real fatigued and sore. And these recruitment patterns are not really even considered. It's just about getting fatigued. When the real approach, or the more effective approach, both in the short term and the long term, is I'm going to go in and practice these movements and learn how to move better. So now I'm doing the squat, and instead of trying to just fatigue the hell out of my legs, I'm learning how to do the squat well, and I'm trying to practice it. And every time I'm in the gym, I'm practicing the squat, and I'm practicing to move better. And over time, I develop excellent recruitment patterns. And now I can push myself to fatigue with excellent recruitment patterns, and the results are just absolutely superior. And it's a completely different approach to exercise, one which leads to sore joints, muscles, poor recruitment patterns, subpar results. The other one which leads to getting really good at movements, really good at exercises, great results, joints feel great, everything feels great, and I can do it forever. So it's two separate camps, one vastly superior to the other, but it's a different mindset.
I think that is actually quite profound, and I'll say, I'm going to be honest. I say I do that 70 to 80% of the time, but again, I could do it more. And you're right. If you go into the gym and say every one of my squat reps, I'm going to try and make perfect. I'm practicing this move. I'm making sure my glutes engage, everything. That has a massive carryover. You're right. And most people have gone into that squat session saying, right, last week I lifted 100 pounds. Today I need to lift 102.5. And that's just the goal rather than the process.
That's right. And it's all about, how sore I can make myself or how intense I can be with my workouts. It's about going to failure. If I want to build muscle, I need to go to failure. I need to hammer myself and then let my body rest for a week or whatever. Really, it's switching that and flipping it on its head and saying, okay, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to train as hard as I can until my form breaks down, and then I'm going to stop. So that might mean I stop 5 reps short of failure. But your body still adapts. Not only that, but you can train more frequently as a result. So rather than squatting, let's stick with, since we brought up squatting, we'll stick with that. Rather than squatting really hard once a week, now I can squat 2 or 3 days a week because I'm practicing the movement. Now, the flip side of that, or the irony of that, is my body actually builds more muscle faster because of that. We now know, this has been observed, by the way, with natural athletes. Bodybuilders train like this for decades before anabolic steroids were ever introduced into the whole realm of muscle building. All bodybuilders train very frequently like this because they saw that that's what built the most muscle. And for most people, this is very true. Go into the gym, train these movements frequently, practice them, perfect them, and you'll build more muscle. And science actually shows that this is true as well. Now, they've done studies where they've compared both methods of training, and they found that when you do work out with weights, muscle protein synthesis, which is a signal of muscle growth, kind of peaks at around 48 to 72 hours, and then it drops very quickly. Even though you're still sore, even if you still think you're recovering, that muscle growth adaptation signal has died off quite a bit. So you're maybe building muscle for about 2-3 days. Now you've got 4 days of doing nothing. Your body actually starts to regress a little bit versus going to the gym more frequently, maybe not as intensely. You're still getting a good workout, but you're not training quite as intensely. You're perfecting the movements. That muscle building signal is up, elevated, 2 or 3 days a week. You end up building more muscle. And the programs that we've created with Mind Pump are kind of based around this, and people get exceptional results because they're following the body's natural systems of adaptation. It's a totally different paradigm or approach to exercise, but it's far more effective, especially for the natural athlete.
Yeah, topic. The natural athlete is a massive personal bugbear of mine, and the amount of steroids and what people say is and isn't true in the fitness industry is a big kind of issue for me. It has been for a while. But Sal, I need to wrap up the show because I actually have to go to the gym and then to rugby training. So this beast has got to go and eat, so he can fuel himself properly. Sal, thank you very much for your time today. We've covered some great stuff. I'm really pleased with how the show evolved. I think motivation is an amazing topic, and I think there's a good 2 or 3 gems in there that's going to make people really think. You've got a lot of amazing content on the internet. By the sounds of it, almost too much to handle. Christ. Where do people need to go to find the most or best of you and Mind Pump?
So you can. So first off, you can find us on iTunes, Mind Pump, and you can search. A lot of our episodes are Q&A episodes, question and answers, and so you'll see the different topics that we cover in each podcast. You can also sign up for what we offer something called 30 Days of Coaching, and it's absolutely for free. And what we do is we send you a different topic for 30 days, starting with the basics, proteins, fats, carbohydrates, resistance training. But we talk about other things like meditation, flexibility, wellness, gut health, all these different, all different topics that encompass fitness and health and wellness. And with each of those topics, we give you bullet points, but then we also give you episodes that we talk about those particular topics with a timestamp. So you can listen to the particular, if you want to learn about protein, then between minutes 5 and minutes 15 of, episode 175 or whatever, we'll cover that particular topic. You can enroll in the 30 Days of Coaching on our website, mindpumpmedia.com. And then we also have a YouTube channel. We have a new video that goes up every single day. Most of them are fitness related. The YouTube channel is Mind Pump TV. And then Instagram, Mind Pump Media. That's pretty much it.
Dude, awesome. Crushed it. Amazing. Everyone that's listened to the show, if you've enjoyed it, please share it. Please share when you see it on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. Tag in a friend where you think, do you know what? My friend Dave will really like this. Tag him in. Make sure he gets the knowledge bombs that you've been able to experience today. If you've never listened to this podcast as well, please go to iTunes and leave a review on iTunes. That's what helps my show grow. That's what helps Sal's show grow. So if you listen to Sal's show and you like it, then go and leave him a review as well, because that's how our stuff grows and more people can find it. Sal, that just leaves me again to say thank you very much for your time, and I hope we connect again in the future.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much, Ben.
Thank you. And for all of you listening, I will be back next week as normal on the show. In the meantime, stay awesome. Goodbye. Hey everyone, Ben Coomber Radio, episode number 284.